Hello and welcome to the August 2023 Michigan Gardener. This morning I pulled at least 25 pounds of tomatoes out of the garden, and that's way too many for me to eat at one time, so I'm making them into tomato sauce. And to do that, I first chunk up the tomatoes and just heat them up so that they loosen up and the skin starts to come off. And then this is a strainer that attaches to the KitchenAid mixer, and we just feed the tomatoes through here, and it takes juice out of the tomatoes and pulp, and then seeds and peels come out the other end there, so that what we end up with is a tomato juice and a little bit of pulp mixture. Then I take that and I boil it down, reduce it by at least half so that it's a little bit more concentrated than it is right when it comes off this, because it's really watery right now, and I wouldn't can that unless I was canning like tomato juice. I like it more concentrated. Lots to do this month, lots to do.
Wat nou, voor de vraag is ah, shit. Live action.
Oh my God, there's so many moments. Woo! Woo!
I harvested some chilies this morning. This is the second batch of these and the first batch of these. Over here, these are New Mexico chilies, and they're a mild variety. Last year I grew a variety, didn't read the packet carefully, and it said hot, and I liked it but nobody else did. So these are mild New Mexico chilies, and here is a very special chili. So you can compare the ones on this side are squat relative to these chilies. They have a similar flavor but different. These are called Mirasol chilies, and Mirasol chilies are the chili that you use when making the world's best burger, which everyone knows is a slopper, and that's from Pueblo, Colorado. Basically, it's put hamburger bun like this in a bowl, 2 hamburger patties with cheese, and you dump Colorado green chili over it that's got these chilies, some chicken broth, little bits of tomato, and chunks of pork in there. Oh, it's good. Gretchen hates them because she doesn't like the sloppiness, and I love them. But anyway, Mirasols for sloppers. So to get these ready and save them, what I do is I put them under the broiler until the skins blacken, and then flip and blacken. Let them cool down and put them in a food saver bag, and then freeze them in batches that, like this is enough to make a batch of just regular chili, like a good handful at a time. I just freeze them in batches for one thing of chili, and I'll do that with both of these peppers.
Just a little check-in with the hardy hibiscus. You can see that we get a lot of great height and late season color with this hardy perennial, and it's something that comes up later in the season, so you get your peony show first and then the hardy hibiscus later.
Nice, Froggy.
All right, in the 8th month, it's time to prune lavender. And if you don't prune your lavender, it will get woody and unsightly. So I have pruned most of the lavender shrubs already. You want kind of a ball shape. You want to not cut into the woodiness at the, it's a woody shrub, you don't want to cut into the woody part. So I'm just starting by taking handfuls of the blooms, kind of trimming those off first. Anything that is kind of creeping along the ground that's going to get too moist and rot, I'm trimming that up. And I will say that some of our lavender were pruned last year, some were not. The ones that were pruned are doing better. And in general, what I've read is that if you're having problems with your lavender, usually it's because you're not pruning it hard enough.
Quick update on the Texas bluebonnets. You can see it there. And it seems to be doing pretty well in this little pawpaw garden. This is now its second round of flowering. You can see on the plant there's some bean pods, and hopefully we'll have enough of those here that'll reseed for next year. The deer have chomped some of it. I think they were mostly just curious because they hadn't seen it before. But they've seemed to have left it alone since the initial chomping. Here's an update on our pokeweed. It started to form berries. At this point they're green. You can see that the stem started to turn crimson, hence the name Phytolacca americana. And these berries will eventually turn a dark blue, and birds really like them. These plants, I've noticed, behave differently depending on the light conditions. So I've seen some of these plants that are out in full sun and they've already had their berries and the stems are a lot more crimson. This one is in shade most of the time, but it grows just fine here. Now, once you see berries, any part of this plant would kill you 1,000 times over. So the only time you ever want to eat this is real early in the season when the shoots and things are really young.
Ah, yes. Ah, English muffins. So here's a little snack. Ooh, hot. You can make with your tomatoes. And that is, you take little cream cheese, chive and onions, what I have today. It's about my favorite way to have these. And you put a little cream cheese on there, like so. Then you take tomato slice, tomato slice, Maldon sea salt flakes, just a little bit, and a little black pepper. And that is a delicious breakfast or basically anytime snack.
We're out here in the dahlias today, deadheading. These are a Mexican flower. They grow from corms, and in this climate we are going to take some of them in this winter and leave some of them in the ground to see how they overwinter in the ground versus bringing them in. They do need to be deadheaded so that they will replete bloom. They like a real rich soil and a feed probably once every other week or once a week. Dahlias come in about 1 million varieties, ranging in height, color, shape, texture. I think this is a cactus flower variety. I'm not sure of the exact name, but we did save pictures of each so that we can separate the corms. When you deadhead, you want to take the spent bloom and snip it off right at 2 leaves. Sometimes when you're deadheading dahlias, it can be tricky to decide which blooms have not yet bloomed and which ones have gone over. So 2 ways to tell a spent bloom is, first of all, the spent blooms are going to look more conical than perfectly round. Second, if you give it a squeeze, a little bit of liquid will come out. So this one is spent, and actually so is this one. So I'm going to take both of them down to the next set of leaves, whereas these are perfectly round and have yet to bloom.
So some of these squashes here, like this butternut squash, I think are getting ready to harvest. There's no real exact science on when to do this, but a couple things people look for is, does it have the right color, which this one does. It's nice and firm. If you take your thumbnail and press it, it'll make a little dent, but it won't do too much. And then you notice that the vines are starting to die back a bit. So I think this one is ready. Now, to harvest this, you don't just pull it off of there. What gives this the shelf life is if you leave the stem attached, like so. And what I have to do is I have to clean this up. But you leave the stem attached, and then when that stem dries out, you can trim it up and shorten it. But I mean, the more stem you can leave on there without killing too much of the plant, the better. So I just leave a little T on there if I can. Now these will be washed off and set in a nice cool area in the basement with good air circulation, and these will keep for months and months. So this is what I'm talking about when I say if you're going to grow tomatoes, don't play at it. We've taken probably 350 pounds off of here already, off of our 32 plants, and most of that has been turned into tomato sauce, canned for the winter. So we're getting plenty of that. But I mean, look at that. That's the, these are Rudgers 250s here. That's what those are. But plenty of, I mean, there's more tomatoes here than you can possibly eat. And then, you know, you can the rest. The companion plants, the basil, all that stuff is doing really well. And we'll still have stuff coming out of there for a while yet, I think. There's the Three Sisters method of planting corn. Because they're putting a building up, I didn't get out here in time to get the corn, so I'm going to let all that dry and then use the corn from this year as seed corn for next year. Wow, check out that dragonfly. Holy crap, he's a big one. Where are you at? There you are.